welcome to Property and Paper Live. This is Dawn Rickabaugh. I'm your host and the owner of NoteQueen.com. If you haven't already, please go subscribe so you can be part of these conversations live, ask your own questions, and get other emails, offers, tips, ideas. I'd love to have you over there, NoteQueen.com, and especially good if you're a landlord, tired landlord, and you're kind of over it, but you still need the income. You want to defer capital gains, and you want to leave a great inheritance for your kids. Just a reminder that you should go, if you haven't ever heard about it before, go over and check out Landlord Liberation and the Seller Financing Mastery course. It will open your eyes how you can double your income. If you're on the buying side, I would check out The Seller is Your Bank and the course that we just finished up last month, and it's all ready to go. And it's called Dump the Bank, Date the Seller. There are 5 powerful reasons, actually 7, but the cover was kind of already handled, so it's going to be 5. But these insider hidden benefits that you just don't get when you use bank financing. So whether you're a seller or buyer, there's some really powerful information, tips, and tools. And of course, you can always come on these calls, Property and Paper Live, once a month. So we will get straight into it. I had promised to talk about 1031 exchanges, and I had recently met with a gal in Reno who's been in the business for 1031 exchanging for probably 30 or 40 years, and she found me on LinkedIn, and she says, hey, it seems like we should get together for lunch. So she's seeing that there's it's quite often that someone comes in and say, hey, I've got this offer to buy my property, but I want to do a 1031 exchange. How do I get the cash? If I carry this note, how do I get the cash for my upleg, and balancing all of that? So we were pretty excited to meet each other because she says, oh, you're the kind of person I've been waiting for, because there's not a lot of people that know the seller financing and how the note business works inside and out. And it's really obscure kind of knowledge. This expertise is very much needed and missing in the main retail real estate world, I would say. So us note buyers that buy and sell notes for our own portfolios, we are uniquely positioned to fill the gap in the marketplace. So anyhow, one of the first deals I ever did, and I have probably talked about this before, but it was a classic one where the seller, they were on the market for $500,000. They were listed with a realtor, and they were on the market. Finally, they get an offer at asking price, but they wanted 3 years of owner financing. So they had, I believe, $200,000 down, and they wanted the sellers to carry the rest at 5%. And they had been reading my little thing in the paper. I was writing for the local newspaper back in those days when I was a little baby note queen, because I love writing anyway. I should do a little more of it. But anyhow, they said to their realtor, we know someone, you think you'd be willing to talk with her and work with her, because we think she can help in this situation. So anyway, long and short of it, I came in as a consultant, just charged probably, and besides just the consulting, I kind of walked it through the escrow and kind of made sure everybody understood what was going on. I think I charged $1,500 or something, a flat fee for just being the transaction coordinator, advisor, whatever. And I didn't ask for, a big part of the realtor's fee or anything, although, now that I think about it, I should have got a referral fee for that. Helping her make a commission, right? But I did. I came out ahead, because she became and is still one of my longtime best investing partners now. So that's been many years, 15 years at least. We've done a lot of business together. So anyhow, she says, okay, well, a 5% note, how am I going to get someone to buy this note at par for 5%? Commercial paper is usually going for, Kanisha, welcome. Sorry. You look beautiful. I love your hair these days. Anyway, so I said, really, the discount's going to be a little bit too high, right? So a commercial person, even if they are living in this community, they're going to want a 10 to 12 at least % return on their money, which would equate to kind of a big discount. And then some investors, they like the short-term balloon, and others are wary of it. Like, okay, how are they going to refinance? What's the end game? How are they going to get me out on time? Anyway, so what we ended up doing is the realtor turned into the investor. So she bought the note at an 8%, and so that was only a $25,000 discount, basically. The way it worked out, the way the numbers worked out, so all we did is we increased the sales price to $525 and $200,000 down. The realtor got paid her commission on $525. 5% of $525 is bigger than 5% of $500, right? And then she, out of her investment funds that were doing zero, she bought the $300,000 note for $275. So anyway, that's how we made it work. Then the seller got their whole $500,000 that they were wanting for their upleg. So that worked perfectly. Now, when I was talking to this other gal up in Reno, she's going, how is this going to work? Because what do we know about note buyers? When a note is new, does anyone have a guess? Like, what is the market usually doing with notes? Do they like buying them right out the gate, or?
Probably want a little seasoning.
Yeah, what do you think, Rob? What'd be your guess?
Well, I've heard varying degrees of seasoning. Minimally, they want at least 1 month so they could separate the closing from them. But I've heard maybe 6 months would be nice. A year would be better. But in these pressure situations, you don't have the time. Because everybody's impatient. They want their money now.
Well, right. And plus you have limited time. With the 1031s, they have timelines. You got, the certain 45-day window and a 6-month window, all these different timelines, and then not to mention what needs the buyers and sellers have. So this has to be bought basically as a simultaneous closing, or table funding, as it's also called. And most of the time, traditionally, now we can break from tradition, but traditionally a note is not seasoned until it's received 12 on-time payments, basically. That's really considered when the note is green until it has 12 on-time payments. And sometimes with rehabber paper, if you're in the business of flipping notes, they're going to want, depending on who's buying. I'm just saying institutional type eyeballs who can generally have lots of funds for these deals, they can want 2 years on the rehabber paper. Okay, and so if rehabbers are flipping things and they want money sooner, you're only going to get out a partial. Right, and for me, with my underwriting and what I tell people that ask me, it's don't expect more than a third of the actual 30-day as-is cash value, for your partial. Like, so if the property's worth $100,000, then maybe my all-in's going to be $35,000, and I'll buy enough of a partial and reverse engineer it, to work on that. Will you guys excuse me 1 second? I've got a neighbor uncharacteristically knocking on my door.
He cracks me up.
Trying to repair keep that relationship in good mode, right? I don't want to.
Right.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a scruffle a couple of years ago where we didn't see eye to eye, and so I didn't want him to just hang there and feel awkward on my front porch. So anyway, but anyway, okay, yeah, seasoning. Okay, so
And Dawn, real quick, you mentioned the table deal.
table
God, what
funding
you
or
call
the
it?
simultaneous close.
Yeah, can you just briefly tell me the difference? Like your realtor friend, she did at the closing, she did her part, so she did it right there at closing. But you also said,
It was a double closing, right? So
yeah,
the note was
all at once.
created, and then
Yeah.
the second escrow was where she bought the note. And I don't remember if it was the same day or the next day. But the mortgage has to get recorded first before you even have the recording data to plug in
Okay.
to the assignment document, right?
Nice.
Because the
Yes, you're right.
assignment references the original recording. So usually it's like a day later. In some cases, they can get it done so fast electronically that it is done the same day. And you leave a blank and they just write it in, the
Gotcha.
recording data. Other times when you have counties where they're they're old school, it's snail mail and things like that, that you will not get the recorded deed of trust or mortgage for 3 weeks.
Yeah, I live there.
Yeah, so you can't even buy the note, even if you wanted to, you couldn't buy it. You're not gonna get it, and they're like, you can't get them to giddy up for anything. It's just
No.
not gonna happen, right?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, that's kind of funny. But so in this case, yes, and Rob was bringing up earlier, for anyone who wasn't quite on the call yet, there's an issue where they like it to be separated by 1 month, where the seller at least accepts 1 month of payment, because then the note buyer can't be confused as an originator, where there's a lot of regulation and licensing and all that that's required. But in some cases you can, I feel in some cases that it's worth the risk if I know the parties and the situations and things like that. But just so you know, technically that's why a lot of note buyers don't want to buy it sooner than after 1 month of seasoning, because then it's very, very clear that you're not an originator, a hidden originator in disguise, right? Because then it looks like you're just a lender, a loan originator, and then they're going to go, do you have a license to make loans? Do you, what's your yield on this? Is that usurious or not, or whatever, So it's just cleaner. So anyway, just a word to the wise. This is for entertainment purposes only, as always. And if you don't already know that, coming to some place called notequeen.com, I don't know what to do for you. But anyway, so that worked out really well. And so what if you were the note buyer and someone, let's say my Reno lady, she brings me a deal, and it's, let's say it's just, let's make it a commercial, residential or something like that. And the buyer has, what would you want? If you were going to say, yeah, I'm going to fund this. I'm okay doing it inside that the QI, the qualified intermediary process. They're going to create the note, and then I'm going to have a deal, and I'm going to buy the note inside of that QI time period. What would you want? What would be most important if you were going to go around all of these traditional seasoning requirements? What would you want? Hi, Zaya.
Do you mean in yield or in specifics, as in what's the buyer's?
I'm just trying to
ability
pull.
pay?
I'm trying to pull things out of you guys instead of me going on a monologue like I do a lot of times.
Right.
Okay, let's bat it around. Everyone, don't be afraid to look silly. I look silly all the time.
All right, I would say minimum of 12%, and I'd like to know about the buyer's ability to pay.
Okay.
Well, it's a relationship, and sometimes we have a help a brother, help a sister out type scenario when we want to do seller financing, but we still want to know if they can pay, because we don't know them. The buyer might.
That's
and the
right.
seller might.
Exactly, because you want to help a brother, sister out. Well, you're a brother, And your sister that you might get investing with you, you need to watch out for you and the people in your world, because nobody's going to come. Who's going to save you if you make a poor choice, right? So we have to have very balanced compassion and equity for the other people plus ourselves, right? Most of us are mom and pop people doing this stuff. This is the realm I like to live in. I don't care about big funds. I don't care about banks. I care about us mom and pop people learning how to function in this space with eyes wide open, because we can literally create an alternative parallel economy on some scale, even if it's a small one. It's possible if we can, right? So let me not get down another rabbit hole. So Rob, you're gonna want 12% return, and you're gonna wanna know, you wanna do the underwriting. Who's the person paying? And can they afford the payment?
Right.
And what else? There's a couple other biggies.
Okay, so the you can check all day long how well they pay, and they can be great at that. And then something happens out of the blue, like a car wreck, which happened to me. The guy broke his back. He's laid up, can't work. That happened. So you have to be prepared to take a loss, I guess, if I was the investor.
Right. So basically, so standalone point, life happens. But
Yes.
at the point at which we're getting ready to buy an asset that relies on a stream of income, like a real estate annuity that we're creating, we want to know at that point that we made a reasonably diligent effort, right, to make sure that person can pay, right? So what are we gonna? That's going to be the underwriting. He's going to say, probably income statements, right? Just check their financials. The 1003, the HUD forms where it's like, here's what you bring in, here's what goes out, and or usually in this case, I made the example of commercial residential. That would usually be based on the cash flow of the property, right? The NOI, does it have good debt coverage ratio? Would the income from the property support the debt service? Okay, in the example that I just gave. So what else? If you were going to buy something right after it's created, let's say there's no even first payment made. I mean, actually, there could be, if you've had enough time, you could, but let's just say you're buying it fresh. What would you want to know?
I'd want to know what the value of the property is.
Yeah, boom. Number one, what's the value of it? What kind of collateral? What's the value of it? Not pretend value, appraised value, 30-day, 60-day, as is cash value. Because at the end of the day, who's the payer for your note?
The property.
The property is the final buck stops here payer for your note. So you got to be happy if the note pays, and happy if it doesn't. Happy that you'll come out ahead actually if you have to go through foreclosure. Okay, you got to always think. Yes, we think positively and we prepare. Would I still do this deal if the worst case scenario happened? Life happened. Someone gets hit by a Mack truck. They have a stroke. There's so many things we can't compare. Just think what happened in 2020. A lot of businesses went out, right? So there's all sorts of things. So besides knowing what the value is, there is one item of all the things you have as a checklist. There's one thing that compensates for a lot of sins in terms of protecting your position as a lender or a note buyer, right? It's the same thing. You're in the paper business. If you lend money, it's called, the primary mortgage market, it's called loans. if you're in the paper business on the secondary market, you're buying a loan that was created down here, that's called the note business. Loan business, note business, still secured by the same type of paper, secured by the same property. They just call it different things. It's all the paper business, right? Financing against real estate. You can either lend it on here and make a loan, or you can buy it down here and they call it you're investing in notes. Or you could say, I'm investing in a loan. I'm buying a loan. These people can say I'm originating a note, but usually it's hard for people to figure out what are you talking about? Is a loan the same thing? Okay, and loan to value, investment to value, you still got to know, based on the value of this property, is it worth $1 million? What's my, am I at 70% loan to value? Would I do a 70% loan to value and loan 700,000, or would I like to be a little lower, like at 500,000? I want to be at 50% investment to value. I only want to risk 500,000 against $1 million property, because even if the property goes down by 20%, I still have protective equity. So what gives us the best protective equity that is better than their 1003, better than their credit score, better than seasoning? What is the most important thing that really forgives all sins? A lot of sins.
Down payment?
Dude,
Down
boom,
payment.
boom. Down payment, right?
Woo-hoo.
So if this $1 million property, who said that, by the way? Is that you, Kenesha? You snuck in out of driving. Oh, naughty you. Good for you. No.
I'm safe though, hands free.
Hands free. Okay. Yeah. Big down payment. And also, that's going to be critical for making the numbers work inside the qualified exchange, right? Because let's say I can only pay, let's say my ITV limit, investment to value limit is $500,000. That's all I can pay. That's it. That's all I'm bringing to the table. If that's my rule, that I only want to be at 50 cents on the dollar, basically, right? So that I can only pay 500. It doesn't matter if the note's 600,000 or 700,000 or 800,000. I ain't bringing any more than $500,000 to the table, right? So if someone puts a small down payment and the person who's doing the exchange wants most of their money out, they have to take a really small discount. So that means for these to work, there has to be a very large down payment, or else the numbers just won't work. Because the discount on it will make the person go, I should have just sold for cash. I just, instead of doing seller finance and sell the note, well, I should have just dropped my price 10% and I'd be ahead and get a cash buyer in here. Right?
Well, in that situation, you could always point out the fact that the discount the note is taking to make this happen is smaller than the taxes you would pay if you didn't do the 1031.
Well, I'm just saying, yeah, that always remember there's the tax side of it that can also play a big factor in there, right? But also, the thing is, if they got a cash buyer for the 1031, so that we're comparing apples to apples. Let's say they got $1 million because they're willing to carry paper, do seller financing. But then by the time we discount the note, they're only going to walk away with 800,000. And they had, in that case, if they had someone willing to pay 900,000 cash, you can see they would come out ahead, right?
Right.
So if they had two buyers and one was at 900,000 cash and the other one says, I'll give you $1 million if you carry. And they think, oh, I'll take the $1 million and then I'll just see if I can sell the note, or I'll keep the note and just pay off, bring in funds to balance out the equation. But you can see people think that sometimes reaching for the highest price could bite you unexpectedly, whereas you should have just sold for cash, right? Because at the end of the day, if, by everything they only net 800,000, it's not worth it. Or 700,000, just depends, right? So just a word to the wise, it's not about what you sell the property for. It's about what do you need it for, when do you need it by, and what's the net you're really gonna get, and how much money do you need now versus 10 years from now versus 30 years from now. So anyway, also for me to come in and buy a piece of the note, I'm gonna need, I'm gonna have to like the collateral. I have to have a solid foundation of feeling I know that it's worth what it sold for. Number two, I wanna see a big, ginormous down payment. You see that in my first example, she put down 200,000, what was that, 40% down? I like 40, 50, 60, 40, 50, 60% down. Then we can reverse engineer the note in a way that the discount's gonna be like squeaky little. Okay, but if they only put 10 or 20% down, nope, because I already have my ITV, my investment to value maximum on the note, and it would be probably the same for me on a loan too, whether I'm originating something or buying it, it's kind of the same, LTV, ITV. So those are the things. Yes, we can do it inside of the qualified exchange. And the other element that is the fact that I found my own private money. How did I find it in that first deal? Who was the private buyer that would take less of an interest rate than, any random third-party institutional commercial note buyer? How did I find it? I created it. You guys, creating your own pool of money is the fastest, easiest way to make money in the note business, because we can see, right? If the rates go down on real estate, people pay all sorts of prices, but the rates are high, the real estate prices go down. So it doesn't even matter. So if you can get someone who will just take 1 or 2 points less than what you can originate something at or buy something at, you have passive income. So that is one of the most important tools. How do I get in the note business is you got to create your own market. With owner financing, when I'm saying, let's go hunting for angel investors, I'm looking at my neighborhood and all these houses. Well, there's going to be 4 out of 10 of them that own their property free and clear. And one of those, if I go hunting for those, I'm going to find private money that's going to be less than bank financing. Okay? But if you have family, friends that want to get in and they're willing, and all day long, you can buy deals at 8%, get someone who's good at 6%. Boom, you got a 2% spread. So anyway, creating your own market and not having to deal with whatever FNAC or the other big players are, the hedge fund players. If your cost of capital is lower, you can make a lot of things happen a lot more easily. But even so, I know on this hypothetical situation that she was talking to me about lunch, if all the things I already said, I don't want to repeat it, then I can make it work. Because then all we need to do, they're going to have a discount. Okay, can the buyer pay a little bit more? Can we put a balloon in there a little shorter? Can they pay a little higher interest rate? Can they keep the interest rate the same? Can they pay on a shorter amortization? There's all sorts of ways to compensate for if my yield has to be a certain amount, we can squeak things around. And there again, we could rope your thing in, Rob, too. It's like, hey, agents, can you guys take half of your commission now and half over time or something like that to make the deal work? So let's get your broker paid off and you take your piece at 10% or whatever. You're going to be carrying in second position. 10 or 12% would be reasonable. So anyway, just saying, is that helpful?
Yes.
Does that? Okay.
Yes.
Isaiah is say down payment. Yeah, account for it up front. Down payment. You had it. And Zaya also said, can you unmute? Is it quiet, Zaya? Okay, I will put the borrower's character before any of the following criteria because there's no end for the need to account for all costs associated with creating or buying a note. You need a spread. Yep, you have opportunity costs. You need to keep money aside in case you have foreclosure, your legal fees, holding costs, forced place insurance, blah, blah, blah. And he said it can take years to get the property back and they could file bankruptcy. Yes, all those things are a possibility. So that's why there's a discount. And that's why you have to be very judicious about your loan to value, investment to value. So if the worst scenario happens, are you going to be all right? At the end of the day, if you have to wait 2 years to get it back, you're going to be all right. And that's partly why I won't buy in states that take 2 or 3 years to foreclose. I don't like that, right? So I prefer the deed of trust states. And usually just states I kind of familiar with. You know, there's a lot of states in the East and South that kind of function differently. And sometimes it's worth the brain damage to figure out something new and make sure you're doing it right. And sometimes it's not, you know. The older I get, I guess I get sort of comfortable. But anyhow, all right. Where are we at? It is 9:37. So what else do you want to talk about? Questions or deals you have? Things you're doing?
I got a question.
Hey, Robin.
Okay, so you want, on your down payment, you want to be at 40 or 50 or 60. That sounds crazy to me, but you said you can reverse it back out somehow in the note?
Because if I'm buying an unseasoned note, I have to compensate for the risk somewhere, and a good down payment does that. And a lot of people who are doing these big movements of real estate, they're like selling one thing to get, so there's a lot of money just trying to move itself around. So we're not talking, in this case, the example was not like a 250,000 single family residence. We're talking about a commercial. This is a big positioning. And they should. I mean, if they had to get a bank loan, don't they have to at least put down 35%?
Okay, so that makes sense.
You know? So,
Yes.
so otherwise it just can't work, because it's not that I won't do the deal, but the numbers, the discount will be less favorable for the seller. So if I'm trying to get the seller very close to what they would net in a cash sale, then I have to have a huge down payment. All right, to make it work. But if the seller says, I don't care, I'll just take a partial and I'll bring funds that are over this in this other account, and I'll bring money to the qualified intermediary to make the number of my taxes work out. You know, I'll carry part of the note and deal with that later. So.
Interject something real quick.
Yeah, Zaya.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to overcome I wouldn't call it my shyness, because the world doesn't want to hear me. Once I start talking, I will never stop. But I just wanted to compliment you, because I really believe that over the years, this note business has been really hyped up by so many people, especially the so-called gurus. There are only 2 or 3 people that I respect, and you are one of them. And
Oh my goodness, thank you.
it was years ago when you said that, I remember you said something like 60% of notes coming to your desk, they were not, basically, like you couldn't do anything. They were not marketable. And that, honestly, that said to myself, wait a minute. Everybody's telling me I have to send letters. I am living in Bay Area. There is nothing. I did that many years ago. It's a long story. I didn't make any money. And I said, I'm not a main man anymore. And I said, why would I want to send letters and play the so-called numbers game of only finding out what you have experienced through hard work and a lot of expense over the years, that 60% of them are unmarketable. So anyways, I just built.
Yeah, you know what, I don't, Well, let's just say they didn't like my pricing, right? Some of them were actually not viable for, I wouldn't say that was 60%. There were some technical problems or the way they set up the note. Hey, you're the one that created this note. When you carried paper, when you offered owner,
Yes.
you're the one that baked in the value of the note. You didn't know it, so it's not my fault that I can only pay you 50 cents on the dollar. This is just the market. It's not personal, right? And so that's why we have to reverse engineer it. But yes, it is a tough, everything's a tough business. A lot of things are tough, right? And it just depends on where's your genius. If the note business isn't your genius in this way, if you're really good at developing capital partners that are okay with 5, 6, and 7%, you can make money all day long with that. You know, some people are just better at that. They don't want to have to do the lead gen because they can cultivate their own private money partners, or they're good at getting owner financing from property sellers. Those are two ways. You get your own angel investors, you create your own market. The cheaper that your source of capital, the more you can make a profit not having to do it. But it is everything. So that's why you really have to align with, is this really the right thing for me? Is it a good fit for me at this time? Because and all of us are needing to really evaluate that all the time. Life is happening so fast,
Exactly.
right? Things are changing so fast, and I think I've just noticed as things get crazier, and the news feed that I mainly kind of unplug from most of the time, but as things get crazier and whip up around here, and people lose jobs or they need to move, or relationships, lots of changes in relationship right now, lots of breakups. So lots of things are changing in people's lives. And so it's a good time to sit back and reflect. Not just what I want to do, or shoot, I just got fired. What am I going to do? I got to do something, right? And just take it into your own hands. For me, I'm always like, be an entrepreneur, work for yourself, figure out what it is that really lights you on fire. It doesn't have to be the note business. And to me, this whole thing matters because I have a broader context of alternative economies, unplugging from the Wall Street beast, right? But it's really not, I'm really not unplugging. I'm, as much as I can, I am, because I don't really use banks and that. But if I really had to unplug, what would I do without a bank account? What if I didn't, couldn't get a bank account because I don't play by the rules, like, or what people think I should do. I'm notorious for not wanting to do that. I came, the COVID thing, nope, that just didn't make sense to me, and I didn't comply, and that was really tough to hold that line.
Exactly.
And digital IDs coming along, that'll be really tough to hold that line. People, I hope, will hang out as long as they can, because once we're in a digital prison, we can't get out, and our kids won't get out. Once they can control every aspect of it. So and medicine, the medical industry, I would never, I after I saw that, what they were doing, I'm like, I will never even volunteer for that system again. So I let my nursing license that I had kept up, the CEs, for years and years and years. When I saw that, I'm like, nope, we got to find out how to keep my family out of the hospital and out of that system. So that's just my thing, so how do we create alternative economies, systems, networks, even if it got down to barter and other things? I'm like, what makes you? So anyway, I'm just saying you got to create your own thing, and I don't know what that is for everybody, but I know it's important to take quiet time, and as things are ramping up chaotically ever more, don't let it harvest your energy. Get quieter, unplug more, go put your feet in the grass more. When you sit down to have your coffee, don't watch or read anything, just sit and stare at something and find beauty and peace. Look for beauty and peace. I just have to tell you this, we're almost at the end, I guess, but somehow had never heard of this before. Have you guys heard of Joan Ocean? JoanOceanFilms.com. I had never heard about that, but she was like the front runner for people swimming with dolphins in this thing that's all a really big thing. And it was a 3-hour documentary, and I watched it last night. I just heard about it a few days ago, and I'm like, what? What's that? And it's a little bit, slow in the beginning, but like by the end of it, I'm like, I need to watch that again. But anyway, the point is that we need qualities of being. Yes, we have to make a living. We have to make the realities work. But if we don't slow down and focus on the quality of being in peace and love and beauty, I mean, those are the things that, in her words, if I'm summarizing, it's like these dolphins and whales, they carry this, not only they're probably a lot smarter than we are, but they really carry a very high frequency that's very healing and nourishing, and just reminding it. Like she said, this whale came up, she's like, what in the heck am I doing here on this island? Oh my God, I can't even set up my tent. There's no beach. I thought I was gonna lay on the beach, all these things. And this whale came up and just poked its eye out, and she said, it was incredible. It was just sending her these waves of love and energy, and it was just transformational. So her whole life, that sent her on her whole life. It's actually really, really amazing. But people get that with their worship. People can feel that with their Jesus, right? Our Jesus, Yeshua. People can do that with standing around horses and their divine presence and strength. There's all sorts of ways. So, well, it is Sunday, so you guys can forgive me for going into Sunday school here. But anyway, the point is, it's not about, oh, that's a good idea, that's a good idea. It's more important to get quiet and get in alignment with what's really going to come through for you, because no one else's path is quite yours. So,
Can
anyway.
I finish my thought, please?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Can I finish my thought? Like, what I meant was, of all the people and all the models that I've seen over the years, I like your criteria better. It's a lot more conservative, more, the risk tolerance, risk awareness, and all that. So, and I am in peace, I guess, somewhat, but I can go into detail. We are living in one of the most crime-ridden cities in the Bay Area, past Oakland, so I understand what you say very well. And anyways, we enjoy hiking, walking, enjoy the beauties of life as much as we can, but when 2 houses down your place, they do fireworks, and after 4 months, my right knee, and actually left one, hasn't been healed because I went down to scream at them, and I was attacked by 2 vicious savages. It's not very easy to, to apply. So we are not moving anywhere because everywhere is the same. I went to different states. Anyway, so it's like, you have to stand your ground. I'm not the kind of person that will let evil pass by. We have rights in this country, and I will fight to the end. So anyways, I appreciate your education and training and the love that you have passed on many people. I appreciate you very much. So.
Well, Zaya, thank you so much. That's such beautiful feedback. And my heart goes out to you. And standing our ground. There's a point to that too. And life is hard. Life is really hard sometimes. It really is. We go through these dark nights of the soul. And I'm sorry that I interrupted you. So classic. Oh, I wasn't really listening. I was waiting for when I was going to respond. See, I wasn't really listening. Really listening is you're not thinking of your next response. You're just taking in what that person is saying. So anyway, well, fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me on a Sunday morning. It's been a great conversation. I appreciate you, and you go out there and create financial solutions, just one mom and pop to another. I'll catch you guys next time. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Thank you, bye-bye.
Bye.